Mount Rainier National Park. It's one of the most popular national parks in Washington. The months in July and August are beautiful. And this is why. Thousands of species of plants and animals bloom in the highest reaches of the park. And they're a vital snack to one of the park's most popular residents, the marmots. One of the largest rodents in the park. They're one of the few rodents that can survive higher levels, like mountains. And paradise is a lush meadow that can only survive for these short months. So the marmots must fatten up for their 8-month hibernation. That's 2 months longer than a bear hibernation. These marmots are off to catch the time. Grass and flowers are a good part of marmot diets, but it can also cause a fight. Teeth and claws are no one's picnic. In summer, fights are crossed all around the park, but a winner can secure a future. In one of America's most wonderful parks. Mount Rainier is the most popular national park in the Pacific Northwest. The 2 million visitors each year come here to see its animals, trees, and the mountain that dominates the place. Mount Rainier, over 14,000 feet, the highest in the Cascade Range. Forest covers 60% of the park, home to sounds, smells, and sights. And the perfect home for a bird. The Stellar jay thrives in the wealth of the forest, on the hunt for insects, pine cones, and nuts and seeds. Half of the seeds the bird plants leaves them behind underground, and some of them will become trees. Some of these trees were planted by these birds, but others were planted by other sites. This Stellar jay is a common bird in the Pacific Northwest, and you could be hearing it a lot from hundreds of feet away. And around campsites, human visitors must be careful when they eat or not, or when they leave it behind. Many of the trees grow here, leaving behind seeds of this bird. But some trees can get their energy and grow. Many animals and birds, but also another source. There are over millions of trees in the park. Many of them lived for hundreds of years and grow into 100-foot giants, like Douglas fir. They get their energy by one source of thing, water. Sometimes fog goes through trees, but those trees have another strategy. With their long roots, they can reach for the nearest river and drink the water like drinking straws, helping these trees grow. Mount Rainier has about more than 200 lakes and 470 rivers and streams, and some of them are fast. And some rivers have waterfalls. With over 150 named waterfalls, Mount Rainier has more waterfalls than any national park. Some are 1,000 feet, while some are small. Others are huge. This is the widest on Earth, the Narada Falls. With so much moisture and water, it's so cool. They can even make a rainbow. Many rainbows happen in a sprinkler rainstorm, but some waterfalls can create their own rainbows. One of the most spectacular events I have ever seen in the park. And many of those trees survive the moisture on the falls. But many of this water is happening because an eerie ice world. Many of this water comes from the mountains, including the star of the park, Mount Rainier. Over 2.5 miles high, one of the biggest mountains in the lower 48. So high that the clouds can touch it. Mount Rainier is actually a volcano. It had a few small eruptions in the late 1800s, but the largest eruption it last did was 1,000 years ago. It lasted a small eruption in 1894, and in 1899, saw that the volcano and the landscape it's sitting on needed protection. President Williams signed Mount Rainier as a national park. Mount Rainier is one of the oldest national parks on Earth. Now, its forests are carved by glaciers. And over 300-foot thick blue glaciers. Mount Rainier has about 26 glaciers, more than all of the volcanoes in the Cascade Range combined. Mount Rainier has more glaciers than any mountain in North America. It makes the park famous. And every spring, glaciers will carry meltwater. Glaciers are actually made of ice, which is made out of water. And when the sun is warm enough, meltwater, fast-moving water, goes downhill. In Mount Rainier, glaciers can produce over 60 million cubic meters of water in a year. They release silt and clay, forming the water in Mount Rainier, and helps the forest beyond. In Paradise by the mountain, flowers come into bloom. Some of them won't open until July and only happen for a few weeks, which gives enough time to feed the park's most popular residents. After 8 months of hibernation, this male marmot is very, very hungry. The first bloom of flowers attracts one of the park's largest rodents, weighing about more than 10 pounds and about the size of house cats. Flowers are a main feast for marmots. And for marmots, they only have a few months to fatten up, so the clock is ticking. The marmots are not the only rodents that hang in the mountains. The chipmunk, one of the smallest animals in the park, barely the size of your hand. He's on the hunt for food. And unusually on the ground, they sometimes go up to trees to find the food they need, like pine needles. This little guy is adorable. But it's not really cute. It's the park's most dangerous animal. Their bite can carry diseases when being fed, and for most visitors, it's a warning. So do not feed them, or he will bite you like no one's business. Even though humans, most of them, stay clear of the chipmunks, other animals do not even care. One that doesn't focus on the chipmunk, but the grass it's grazing on. Under its hooves, the chipmunk must find a way to escape or get squashed. And off he goes. There are estimated to be about 400 black-tailed deer in the park, but no one really knows. Summer is the perfect time for grazing for this common deer. There'll be grass everywhere until snow hits and the deer are forced downhill where the snow hasn't completely covered the last blades of grass. And in paradise, this female is holding a secret. Summer's the perfect place for fawns to play in the meadow. This little fawn needs to stay close to her mother. Following her scent and memory, this little guy knows how to get to her mother. Amongst the crowded bushes, she makes a living. Snow will come in a few months, so they best graze on these precious prairies now. To elevations in paradise over 4,000 to 6,000 feet, it's as high as our male marmot can go. The flowers are still on a bloom for this guy, doubling his weight after losing 30% of his body weight during hibernation. If any boulder needs to be climbed, he can climb it. With strong claws, but they can also climb the boulders to catch the sun rays and sunbathe, and marmots love to do that. The boulders is also a home for marmot pups. Females give birth to 2 to 5 during hibernation and come out to play. This little guy is already exploring his home. Like the lone male, his territory and his mother's is full of flowers. A candy store bursting with sweet nectar. And marmots cannot resist. Right now, they just relax in the boulders. Mom's devotions don't last long, and marmots grow up fast. At just 2 years old, the little ones are now exploring on their own. Like chipmunks, marmots have strong teeth that can carry diseases, sometimes rabies. But as long as you don't feed it, the marmot is a calm little critter. And this young marmot has left his burrow and boulders and almost about to leave to the meadow to feed. Just get a quick look out, and then it's off to catch the time. Well, he's gonna be just fine. There are other mountains in the park besides Mount Rainier. The smile around Mount Rainier, and you could see it in paradise, are the Tatoosh Mountains. Over 26 named peaks, the largest standing over 6,000 feet. Mount Rainier has one of the largest mountains in the lower 48, and one of the greatest views, perfect enough to spot, view, and study mountains. Despite being cold in winter, summer is also hot, reaching over 70 degrees, and that's the right temperature to spark the bloom. Spectacular events like the Tatoosh Mountain and Rainier, but also the flowers that sit beside them. In late July, purple-pink flowers come at their final bloom. They only just have a few weeks to feed the animals and also to attract pollinators. And paradise is the perfect place for flowers, and you can see why it's paradise. And bumblebees are one of the main attractions on flowers. Dozens of species come to paradise to gather the pollen it needs. As it gets the pollen to the purple flowers, it spreads pollen in them, and then it can release when they go to the next purple flower. And that's good for paradise's unique flowers. It just needs to find the right flower. It could take like a few minutes to do so. The packets of pollen it has? Oh yes, perfect for this bee to survive in the wilderness. After feeding, the male marmot relaxes and then feeds again. The sugars in the flowers are healthy, unlike the sugars that are in cookies and candy. The food he grazes is a good start, but it's easy to stray on a hiking trail where humans come. This marmot better stay out. But he knows a best way of exploring besides getting in the middle of the trail. Why go further in the forest when you could go near the trail? But just in case there's dogs around, the marmot must get back into the wilderness. A few thousand feet up where the marmot lives, Mount Rainier is the perfect place of spotting glaciers. Over 300 foot thick and 1,000 feet down, some glaciers move a few feet a day. Many of them are growing through the winter. While some are growing, others may shrink. But right now, glaciers play a real good part on the park's waters. As you hike across the mountains and walk across, you find surrounding by glaciers, blue and white. Some people might see it as snow, but hard. Some glaciers are so tough, they can cut through solid rock. The largest glacier is about 700 foot thick. Many glaciers can release silt and clay to the park's rivers. With fast-moving water, moving over several dozen miles an hour, these are glacier meltwater and also snow melt from last winter, and will continue to go on throughout the summer. There are some calm waters, like Mount Rainier's more than 200 lakes, like Reflection Lake, famous on the Mount Rainier. When you hike up to a place when you can see the mountain, but you can't, it's because it's covered by clouds. Sometimes a few, and you can still see half the mountain. Mount Rainier is so tall that some clouds can touch it. Some from the Pacific Ocean, from a few hundred miles away from the park. Mount Rainier looks famous, as it was when it was active. Mount Rainier was once one of the greatest mountains in Washington. Volcanic ash got everywhere when it was erupting. Small eruptions in the 1800s were not as big as they did for centuries, but they were still epic. Today, some rumors may say that the volcano is still active, but others say it's no longer active. The only active thing it has are glaciers. And the smoke that you can see right now is the clouds that hit the mountain. Other volcanoes by it, like Mount St. Helens, Mount Adams, are trying to beat Mount Rainier's volcanic eruptions, which some volcanoes have. Volcanic ash is a natural fertilizer for the earth, growing its new trees and plants, including paradise. This female city grouse is about to have a nice dirt bath once volcanic ash, about the size of a chicken, they're one of the largest grouses in the country. The mountains are a good place for these birds to hang out. Some about 1,000 feet up even can raise their chicks. And with a nice bloom of feathers protecting it from the cold. At spring, males come with a dazzle display, but the mating season is over. Now the females can relax and take its little dirt bath and come out to the meadow to feed on the insects, flowers, and grass. For the male marmot, life is snow or meadow. The snow has completely melted on late July, and the male marmot can search however he likes, whenever he likes. But it's also easy to stray onto someone else's turf. And if you do that, fights can become uneven, sometimes brutal. Another male is letting him get ready for a challenge. The winner? Most likely the owner. But a fight is inevitable. Rodent teeth that carry disease could still be affected on the marmots themselves, but their dense fur can protect them. But bites like this can still be painful. They can even use their claws to rip off fur. Grave injuries are unusual, but sometimes fatal. Messing in the wrong territory is dangerous. No biting. The meadows are challenging places for these rodents. And the marmot who wandered in the wrong place decides he must get out of here. And quickly, he gets back to his favorite spot, and eats. Mountains may be a tough place for these guys to live in, but it's their home. For the young marmot, this home is where he'll be making a living for the next decade of his life. Fighting territory, but also fighting for it, like the big male did. And he is going to be fine. Now he needs to find a territory of his own in the vast Mount Rainier. And for the marmots, their home is a massive one. Through the Cascade Range, and the trees and the meadows. Hundreds of millions of square miles, bigger than Los Angeles. Soon, the marmots will head back into their den to hibernate for another 8 months. And when you're this small, it could be a really long time. Until next time they pop up next spring. And the marmots, the mountains, no longer an obstacle, but their home. As the meadows are growing and becoming more beautiful than ever, attracting lots of animals, including another one of the smallest, smaller than the marmot, but larger than the chipmunk. The Cascade golden ground squirrel, found only in the mountains of the Cascades. Like the marmots, they're fattening up for a hibernation, and they can do it for 8 months. With only a few pine cones and barely enough nuts, these squirrels can feed on the flowers and grass and just being cute. People think of them also as a cartoon character and feed them. They're also one of the park's most dangerous animals. Just don't feed them, and you'll be fine. Right now, this squirrel has a mission, taking dirt baths, like the marmots with their sunbathing. When done, they can go to the fields to feed. They only got 4 months to fatten up, so they better do it quick. Soon, paradise will be covered in snow, and the squirrels will be underground. In paradise, you can also see mountains from far away. Mountains are not even part of the park, like Mount St. Helens. In late July, the mountain comes under its clouds, and the trees and flowers know it will be almost winter when snow will cover for 8 months, so animals must eat now if they're gonna make a journey or hibernate. And the black-tailed deer have only a few weeks to feed before they head down the forest. Some have already done the journey into the forest by the trees nearby paradise and graze on its pine needles and leaves. They must fatten up for the winter. In winter, there'll be little more than sticks left. Some deer will migrate south. Others will stay in Mount Rainier year-round under the perilous winter. Over Mount Rainier National Park. With winter just about more than 2 months away, Mount Rainier is one of the snowiest places in the lower 48. As the final grazings head up to feed the deer, young and old, when fall comes, the grass will turn red, turning a bountiful feast for these deer. But in late October, the winter will come, and the deer will be forced up the mountains to the forests. And the marmots will hibernate, and the squirrels and chipmunks. Many will migrate and hibernate, but others will face the tough winter in one of America's oldest national parks until they will appear again next spring, and the mountain and its glaciers, the Mount Rainier, will show itself once again out of snow.